And I think that's what just made it so great.
And it's still relevant today. So I was at a grocery store,
Yeah.
and so a lot of people are talking about drive-in theaters now. And there's a drive-in theater I used to love going to, but it's too far now. It's like probably a 50-minute drive, and that's just way too much to go to the movies. And then if you do a double header and driving back, I'm old. I don't do that anymore. But
Yeah, I know. It's too far.
when I was talking to somebody about it, I was like, yeah, it's just too far of a drive. And then the guy's like, yeah, and it's in a bad area of town too. And I kind of just thought, like, that's kind of like another. I mean, there are bad areas of town, but I do think there are areas that aren't bad. But it's sort of this myth that people have created, like, oh, it's just bad down there. Well, have you been down there? No. I'm not. There are like in Cabrini Green, that was a bad area. It was loaded with gangs and everything like that. But like, it's just a myth, I think, that people create of just this myth of that's a bad area. Does that make sense? Like, don't go down there. It's bad. And then you're there and you're like, this is fine.
Absolutely. Like, I think, I mean, it's one of those things that just keeps on happening, and it creates this divide. Of course, there are certain areas where crime is, probably like higher and whatever. But, for me, like, I live in South Africa. I was born like pretty much into the swan song of apartheid, and growing up, like a lot of like adults were telling you to fear the black man, fear like the black areas. Like we had a township. So now I know you guys, yeah, township isn't the same in America as it's here. Our townships were literally created to segregate black people from, well, any other like non-white folk. So the townships were always also on the edges of the cities, The town I grew up in, we had a township adjacent to us. And I remember like growing up, and there was like, we were told that between our town and the township, they dug, I think if you convert it, it's like something like 7.5 feet. They dug this trench, this long line trench between our town and them to keep black people away. That's what we were told. So when I got older, I was like, was that actually why the trench was built? Were they maybe like putting in water stuff? Like, I was actually not sure. I was like, is this an urban legend?
Yeah.
When we said we're going to do Candyman and I started researching, I remembered that. And I was like, man, let me see if I can find anything about this bloody racist trench. Because Mark, we drove to school every freaking day, like the road parallel to this supposed trench. And I hated it. I couldn't understand this fucking trench. I couldn't understand this fear because I didn't have this fear. Like growing up, people telling you to fear the black man, or like apartheid is ending, they're going to take over, fear, fear, fear. Like, we've got a lot of racists in South Africa. And I just never could understand it because I didn't share the fear in the first place. And I never could understand how people can be so bloody disrespectful. Anyway, so I started researching, and for the life of me, I can't find anything about this change. So now it could also be like the fact that we don't have a lot of like old archival stuff digitalized yet. But I'm going to make it my mission now to find out, was this an urban legend? Was it like a trench was, dug for something else, and then white people made up this story of, yeah, it's because the black man wants to come into our neighborhoods and like kill us or whatever? Or was that actually what happened?
And
urban legends.
That's like Candyman too. He's saying she got that killer arrested. The guy that came in and called her a bitch and beat her up in the bathroom. Right. Dirtiest bathroom I've ever seen, by the way. Oof.
Oh, dude. Oof. Like, you can so feel the disgust. Like, you'll discuss it with her. It's so gross. Ooh, you can almost smell it. Ah.
Yeah, whenever I think about that thing, I get some shivers thinking about that.
Yeah.
But so he gets caught.
Space dirty bathrooms. Space dirty.
Oh yeah,
bathrooms.
We should do that. We should do a poll there for the site.
Yeah.
And wait, this is random. The Jane Ann Stewart, she's a production designer. She became Alexander Payne's person. So she did Sideways About Schmidt, Election, Citizen Ruth. And when you think about those movies, maybe About Schmidt, Election, Citizen Ruth, they really do capture a neat blue collar aesthetic. And I think that movie they do a good job here of capturing that aesthetic as well. So this production designer, she knows her stuff. But yeah, so that guy got arrested, the myth is gone, so he has to commit another murder. So it's just people keeping this myth alive to keep people scared. And that happens everywhere in the world. So it's just another way you watch it and you're like, geez Louise, this movie, I mean, it was a shrewd move of Bernard Rose to work with, he actually worked really close with Clive Barker too, which makes me happy to
Yeah.
switch the story, because in the original it's just a woman investigating graffiti, then she becomes the victim of Candyman. So I think it was smart moving it to Chicago, and Ebert in his review noted that. I don't know, it's smart. It's a smart move. I dig it. And
Absolutely. Yeah, like because and also Candyman is white in the English story because Clive Barker's it's what in Liverpool, I think. The Candyman is like, because he's got like, well, it says something about pale yellow waxy skin or something like that. Like it doesn't say he's a black man or anything. It's more like a class thing where Bernard Rose decided, well, let's put it in Chicago and then do the race thing because why not? It's there.
I love it. And I love the architecture
It's
too.
brave.
The very, I love the architecture of it. And he lied to the production company. He had never written the script before. And then when they realized they were pissed, but then they loved the script. I love it. And then he came from the same place where Michael Bay and Nolan came from. They came from directing music videos to moving on to these. I'm telling you, if you can direct music videos, you can direct anything. Because I've worked on a bunch of those and they're terrible.
Yeah, it's propaganda films. Like, that's the company, right? Propaganda films.
Yeah.
It's the company where they all were, propaganda films. Because I remember, like, when I saw the logo also, I was like, oh, man, you remember this logo? And then I was like, yeah, David Fincher was part of starting the company, and they did some pretty cool things. I know, like, they did some things with Polygram Films, everyone working together. Wild at Heart, they did the Twin Peaks series, Being John Malkovich adaptation. Yeah, they did some pretty cool stuff.
Oh, those are some good pictures
But
right there.
Here's the thing though, right? Because Virginia Madsen, coming back to like how you were like, like Rose really likes her. Virginia Madsen was actually friends with Rose and his wife. Like they all knew each other. And she was actually up for, I want to say, Bernadette, but then they decided no, they want to make Bernadette African American. And that's how Virginia eventually got the part of Helen. Because they were also at one point thinking of getting Sandra Bullock to do Helen and Eddie Murphy to do Candyman. Can you imagine that? Candyman with Eddie Murphy and Sandra Bullock.
Tony Todd. Listen, whoa. I love Eddie Murphy. I think he should have been nominated for Dolomite and Bowfinger and should have won for Dreamgirls. Amazing actor, but just Tony Todd's voice and his height and just the way he read the character. I can't see anybody else. I really can't.
Like his intensity is just, like, I've told you this, but yeah, I would love Tony Todd in every movie, really. Like, just give him a cameo and everything. He actually said, I read somewhere, like, who's the director that did the second one? Bill Gordon?
Oh, yeah, Condon, yeah.
Condon. He also, did, I think Dreamgirls, but he also did Twilight. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Tony Todd phoned him up and he was like, dude, don't you want to give me like a cameo in Twilight? And he never heard anything back. So Tony Todd just said, yeah, he's probably like too much of a softie to play a vampire. Which I thought was a funny thing to say because, I could totally see him as a vampire. It's softie.
Throw him in there.
He's just a big softie.
I love him in that movie. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Oh man, but I just
he does have a little vampire moment actually when he kills the doctor in the psych ward or whatever, and then like he just flies out of the window like backwards. It's a little vampire moment.
That's the one scene that throws me out of the movie a little bit. I don't know if you see that and you're like what? That's because the tone is just so contemplative, right? It's so. Not mellow, almost there's like sadness permeates it. I don't know what it is. It's very just the warm lighting, but then that happens. You're like, wait, what? That's
exactly like I think it's like a little bit of a callback to Dracula, but then at the same time, I think if he wanted to do that little thing, it should have been somewhere else, not that moment where Helen is like, fine, doctor, I'll prove it to you, and then the doctor dies in front of him, and then whoops.
There's no like coming back from that when she gets that doctor killed. Oof.
I always laugh at that scene, and I always laugh when she and Bernadette goes to Cabrini Green the first time, and she climbs through the wall, the hole in the wall. Bernadette is sitting on the bathtub, waiting for her, and then all of a sudden, like Helen just pops up, Bernadette. And then she's immediately like, "Oh, sorry, did I scare you?" I'm like, "Bitch, you were just like Bernadette."
That'd be better if she was laughing when she did that. Oh. I mean, you need these jump scares to keep people awake, right?
Absolutely. Like
that.
it does like mess with the tone a bit because you're entranced with her with all the stuff that she's seeing and everything, and then it's like this almost comical moments that like it takes you out a bit, but I guess also needed. Maybe it would have been too much back in 1992 to not have those moments.
I mean, I guess as much as my research I found, I never read anything about those jump scares when they did it. Maybe it was just a note, like keep audiences awake. But I don't know, like
maybe
92. I just want to say this real quick. 92 is when Bram Stoker's Dracula came in, and that's one of my like all-time favorite, like one of the best-looking horror films I've ever seen. And I love how they were like, Francis, you are not going on location to shoot this. You're shooting this in studios. And Francis is like, okay. Like, so like now we can control you in the studios. And then it went months over and like millions over budget. This guy just goes wild in studio and out on location, but it's a beautiful looking movie. And then
it's pretty cool.
So I was 10 years old and in this year, and this is when horror really took hold with me because 91 I remember seeing Ernest Scared Stupid and some slasher movies when I was 9. But then when I turned 10, I watched Dracula, or maybe 11 when they came out on VHS. But Dracula, then you had Army of Darkness, Alien 3, Buffy. I remember I tore through a Hellraiser 3. I was obsessed with Dr. Giggles when I saw it on VHS. I had to rent it. That's kind of when I started becoming into horror. So maybe that's why I keep coming back to Candyman, because that's when I really started getting into horror movies.
Yeah, I get that because I think Candyman was the second horror movie that I watched. It was like one of the first horror movies it was the one that stuck with me. Like, I don't think it was the first horror movie that I ever watched, but it was the first one that really stuck with me and that made me, like come back to it. I wasn't big on horror at first, but I think it was just because my mom didn't like horrors. She was scared of it and she was like, no, you guys can't watch it and whatever. So I had to watch horror at my friends' houses and stuff, So I think, that's probably just why. But I always came back to like Candyman, and I don't know, like growing up, I didn't really like a lot of horror really.
I dug it.
Yeah.
And you know what I think I liked about Candyman? When you're 10, you don't understand all the cultural context.
Yeah.
But you've heard Candyman, you've heard Bloody Mary. So you have this boogeyman created that in some pretty gnarly kills. And so you kind of at least have, I guess there's enough there for a 10-year-old to like, but then there's enough there for Roger Ebert to like, who hated horror movies, to get. I don't know, I dig it. I keep saying I dig this movie, but I don't care. I have a quick question for you. Let's say Bloody Mary's real, right? In this world. Everyone in the world knows that Bloody Mary exists. And you're at a bar, and it's dark, and it's loud, and you are trying to order a Bloody Mary, and you're at the bar, but at the bar, you're looking, there's a mirror in front of you, because a lot of bars have mirrors, and the bartender can't hear you, so you're just yelling it to this person. Will you get killed by Bloody Mary? Or does Bloody Mary know that you're ordering a drink, not a ghost spirit?
Yeah, no, I think the intention might do something. I mean, I don't know. Mark. Do you believe in Bloody Mary and Candyman?
I don't know.
Have you said Candyman's name in the mirror 5 times? Have you?
I've never messed around with any of that stuff.
Oh, really?
For me, it's like, I don't want to stick my hand into like a dog's jaw. I don't want to like stick my head into a gator's jaw. I just stay away from things that will, like, there's risk taking, and then there's just that kind. I stay away from all of it. I'm not chancing it. I'm not doing it.
No, honestly, yeah, like, I mean, I didn't do it at first, like, but then obviously you're hanging out with some of your girlfriends, you have a sleepover night, someone's like, hey, let's say Candyman, like, being all stupid, girls, whatever, and it's more just like, spooky stuff and kind of harmless fun with the kids and whatever, but, I mean, I never really, I think, like, So here's a cool urban legend from South Africa that we grew up. Because I think, yeah, that's the thing. Those didn't really scare me. The one that scared me was Pinky Pinky. So Pinky Pinky is this tokolosh